もう心配になることないですか、スタジオの
スタジオの将来はもうはっきりしてますよ。やっていけなくなります。
Miyazaki has now spent over 4 decades at the top of the filmmaking summit, his work only growing in popularity with each passing project. He has left behind what is essentially a dynasty of some of the greatest children's films ever to have existed, yet remaining applicable to all audiences of any age. If you wish to dig deeper into the meanings of these films, there are endless loopholes of lore and connectivity between each one of the projects. However, even for the surface dwellers, the ride remains a scenic one. The stories remain engaging and fun, and that childlike feeling never goes away, no matter how many times you go back to it. What Miyazaki will leave behind will likely influence many generations past his death. That begs the question of what will happen to Ghibli from this point forwards. You see, Miyazaki is not the only man to have directed under the Ghibli olive branch. In fact, there have actually been quite a few different directors besides Miyazaki who have directed under Ghibli. However, their success has been inconsistent, to say the least. These names can be really hard. These other directors include Yoshifumi Kondo, who directed Whisper of the Heart, a film that has received a quite good reception from the fan base. I quite like it, and I think it is underappreciated, to be fair to him. Tomomi Mochizuki, who directed Ocean Waves. Not bad, but nothing special in my personal opinion. Goro Miyazaki, his own son, who directed Earwig and the Witch. The less said, the better. Tales from Earthsea, still not great. And From Up on Poppy Hill. All of these have received certainly mixed reviews, to say the least, and I can't say I disagree with them. Hiroyuki Morita, who directed The Cat Returns, which is a fine film. I wouldn't go so far to say it's good. I think Whisper of the Heart is a much better sequel, but it's a fine film. Hiromasa Yonebayashi, I definitely got that wrong, who directed When Marnie Was There, which, besides Whisper of the Heart, I would say is the best of the bunch so far, and did capture some of that Miyazaki feel, but not to the same extent of Whisper in the Heart. And finally, Isao Takahata, really the only director out of the group who has enough consistent work under his name to suggest that he could actually follow in Miyazaki's footsteps. However, he unfortunately passed in 2018, leaving behind incredible works such as Only Yesterday, My Neighbor the Yamadas, The Tale of Princess Kaguya-sama, and his most emotional piece, and my personal favourite, Grave of the Fireflies. This hole that will one day be left by Miyazaki will never be fully replaced, of course. You can't replace the brilliance that comes with such a creative and different director. His uniqueness is what made him so special in the first place, so trying to replicate that will be simply impossible. However, the hole itself feels like it's not being filled even adequately. It doesn't even feel like there is another director who can replace the vision to an extent to which we can follow their own vision. There seems to be very little trust in what's left after Miyazaki, and it begs the question of how would you replace such an influential director after so many decades at the top of a studio? On top of this, with AI now making its way into the animation world, it begs the question, can Ghibli actually compete against this new opposition within their field? AI is a disgrace to the artwork that animation is and the amount of hours that people put into it, but humanity is lazy. We seem to be tumbling down this path for better or for worse. Critters, for example, a film being made largely on the back of OpenAI's tools, has emerged to be premiered in 2026 and could pose to be a real threat to animation studios and how much they are relied upon to create these films. This could kill any sense of identity that comes with each studio's animation style, and is far from just a Ghibli issue. It's one that we will have to just simply get used to and accept in time. In Miyazaki's own words at the Oscars, he says, "My wife tells me I'm a very lucky man, and I think I've been lucky because I've been able to participate in the last era where we can make films with paper, pencil, and film." He's never hidden from the fact that he knows that Ghibli will be in danger after he is gone. Where his work differs from Walt Disney is his ties so deep into every project that once a knot is broken, there will likely be no other to tie it all back together again. The Boy and the Heron felt like he was accepting that fact, and The original name being How'd You Live feels like a question to us and also to himself. And when watching it, it felt like the most personal film of his that I have seen. Adding on to that, The Wind Rises that came before that also felt like quite an emotional piece. I understand the mixed reviews for the film, but I believe this trend of these more emotional and human films is because Miyazaki is realizing that his time is unfortunately coming to an end. And what's funny is I made this video thinking I'd have an adequate answer to solve this dilemma. But in truth, I don't think there is one. And I don't think Ghibli will have one either. There is something so personal about every single film he has directed that I don't think even the best of others at the studio could replicate. Takahata's Grave of the Fireflies was the closest I have personally felt to seeing that world be recreated. And even still, it's in Takahata's own vision, and it should be acknowledged that it's different to Miyazaki's. It's more gritty, and I think it's more realistic, and it doesn't follow the ethos of how Miyazaki made his films. What comes after Miyazaki is a poor question, really, because the only answer I can think of is nothing the same. Not necessarily worse or better than his works, but nothing that will catch that same magic he has given to all of us for years on end. Thank you for watching. I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments, and if you agree or disagree, and what you think the future of Ghibli is with AI so prominent now within animation. I didn't even touch on Sora AI, but I think it's another contentious point to look at, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Thank you.